Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back. It's new. It's an exciting time. We're right around the corner of the early access beta. A lot of you guys who are looking at Path of Exile 2, you watched the live stream. Maybe you got really hyped. Maybe you know you're going to start playing it. Maybe there's some of you who are PoE1 enjoyers, still not really sure, still on the fence about what you want to do. And you know what? There might be some of you who are researching a lot about PoE and maybe never played the game. Maybe you're thinking this is the time to do it. Brand new game. A lot of different systems have been simplified. There's probably no better time to do it when everybody kind of starts off fresh. Yes, it's nice to have a great background knowledge about how the game franchise works, but no better time than now. And you know what? Maybe you're just still on the fence. You need something to give you that extra nudge. Well, honestly, I got to say this video is targeted at you. If that is you especially, if you are an ARPG enthusiast, never given Path of Exile the time of day, and you've heard a lot of great things about it, and you know it's a scary game to start playing. You've opened that passive skill tree and seen it and just had your mind blown and thought, yeah, there's no way I could possibly just start at this, right? Well, I want you to know that as somebody who plays this game a lot, I was there once. I was there once about 4 or 5 years ago. I was a Diablo franchise loyalist, not just enthusiast, a loyalist. Ever since I was a teenager, I played ARPG games there was almost no year that went by that I didn't at least touch a Diablo game. And I ultimately decided to start playing PoE1, and I want to share with you why that was, what it was exactly that pushed me over the edge. It has everything to do with the archetypes of class identity. And, it's a very comfortable, familiar thing that really helps the suspension of disbelief. And I absolutely love how the Diablo franchise has handled this. It's been one of its greatest strengths, the class archetype. Just think about it. Back when I started playing, it was Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, okay? Perhaps the best, one of the best ARPG games ever made. We'll just put it there for now. Please don't argue too much about that in the comments. But certainly at the time, that game was absolutely amazing. And you load up the game, it gives you a character selection screen, right? And there it is. You see it. The characters are on the campfire. Absolute iconic imagery. It's been copied time and time again. Even PoE copied that imagery for the most part. You got the dexterity, accuracy, agility, rogue-like, ninja, assassin, call it an Amazon on the left-hand side. And the character is going to be using a spear or a bow or some sort of dagger or something to that effect, right? And then you got, a warrior of the light, a crusader, call it a paladin, a mastery over the auras and imbuing magic into their weaponry. Hard-hitting, shield-wearing. And then you got the absolute brute force barbarian who forgoes magic and just, hack and slash or bludgeoning enemies all over the place just with brute force. And then you got the sorceress who completely forgoes strength and taps into the potential of magic. Flaming fireballs out of her hands. Very fun, very cool. Still somewhat grounded in reality. At least allows for a suspension of disbelief. And every single character that there was, I didn't name them all, but I named a few. They all had this identity about them. They all had a specific skill tree, a certain way you had to build the character. And at the time, when we didn't know what we didn't know, that seemed like there was a huge amount of diversity and all kinds of different choices you could make. It's pretty incredible at the time. But over time, it gets a little bit stale. There's only so many ways you can build a character. There's only so many ways items can help diversify, build creation in that sense. And you just start longing for more, whether you realize it or not. And this brings me to the moment when I decided, after playing Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction for a long time, playing Diablo 3, I stumbled upon PoE and I saw a build showcase for a particular video. I'm going to show that video in this video. It's going to be part of the background footage, although so far we're just playing some PoE2 in the background. And it had to do with the subversion of this archetype, this class identity archetype. And I want to first off show you the passive skill tree of PoE1 so you can understand, at least get some sense as far as a surface level understanding how this game is set up. And so everything I say from following this actually makes a little bit of sense. So right now you're going to see the passive skill tree, and you'll see it's an absolute monstrosity, right? And I'm not going to go over specific points or nodes or notables in there. I just want you to see it from a macro viewpoint, and I want you to understand that the tree is basically broken down into 3 parts. There's 3 sections. There are 3 attributes that you need to worry about, kind of like there was in, the games of old. There is dexterity, which is essentially focusing on accuracy and agility side of things. Weapons like claws, daggers, bows, just what you would think it would be. And this section is represented in the bottom right-hand corner. Then there is intelligence, which, of course, as you can imagine, represents the more magical, mystical side of things, with things like staffs, with wands and elemental damage, a lot of that kind of stuff. And that represents the top side of the tree. And then on the bottom left, go figure, we have the strength, the vitality, the life side, with all the sort of melee weaponry, swords, axes, maybe scepters, things of this nature. Not a whole lot in the way of magic, bleeding, a lot of bleed stuff down there. Okay, and so the game is set up so that it's really about which section of the tree you're in that is going to determine what kind of build you're going to use, right? But you don't necessarily have to go in the area that you're designated to based on the type of class you choose. You see, when you choose the class, you start off in the middle. Now, you may start in the top middle or the bottom middle or whatever based on, that archetype. So there is some pressure to stay in your lane, so to speak, but there's plenty of opportunities to do something crazy, something wacky, something that can still make sense in the confines or the context of how the game is designed. Let's say if you get a particular build-enabling unique item or something like that. Now, in the past, we've had a lot of different builds that fit this mold, and I'm just going to quickly name off a few, and you can research them if you'd like. We've got such builds as Explosive Arrow Ballista. Okay, that's an elemental arrow, ballistas, which you would think would be in the bottom right-hand corner of the tree, but it actually starts with an elementalist, or typically an elementalist, which is actually on the top side of the tree, which is, again, more focused on intelligence. And yet, so this is an elementalist that ends up with a bow in her hand, a sorcerer, essentially. And if you don't like that, you can go in the complete opposite direction and take it upon a champion, which is going to focus typically more on strength and melee weapons, but in this case, could also use a bow and make good use of that. Then another class, speaking of strength, it would be a strength stacking wander, kinetic blast, or power siphon, with a berserker ascendancy. Now, notice I said wander. This is a class that uses a wand, and I said berserker. Yes, you heard me right. That is a berserker. So that is a type of class archetype that wouldn't be caught 10 feet near anything magical, yet it's using a wand, which you wouldn't think would be associated with anything. You just try to imagine a barbarian dual-wielding wands. Can you imagine that? But yes, that is something that exists, and it's a build that makes sense within the context of everything inside that build and how it works. Life stacking Hex Black Saboteur would be another one that is quite outside the mold. The Saboteur is a master of mines and traps, and it starts on one side of the tree and then immediately goes way off in the complete opposite end of the direction because the side it starts has nothing to do with life. It's actually a completely different form of EHP, like Energy Shield, but it forgoes all of that and goes for life stacking instead. It makes for a very interesting build. Now, in my case, I'm going to share with you the build, this very specific build. In fact, I'm going to showcase video footage in the background of the exact build that I saw that made me say, yep, I'm going to play this game. I'm actually going to play this game. Huge shout out to Big Ducks content creator, who I don't think was the progenitor of the build, but he's definitely the person who brought it to the masses. It's a video that I saw, and I've talked about this at least once or twice before on my channel. It is called a Burning Arrow Golemancer. Now, it's an elementalist, but it's a Golemancer. And so golems are a particular type of minion that can be raised. So it's a sort of a necromancer in that sense. It's Burning Arrow, which is a fire arrow. So that is going to be a bow character. And yet it's with a sorcerer class type, because it's an elementalist and then used ignite. Basically turned all damage into ignite. And so this was just some dream come true for me as somebody who enjoyed from Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction the Necromancer class, the Sorcerer's class, and the Amazon class to have essentially a three-way hybrid build where I could raise minions from the dead, fire off elemental arrows and, kill my foes with obscene amounts of elemental fire damage using bows with multi-shot, things like that. It was just heaven in a bottle for me. I can't even imagine, I couldn't have even fathomed up a build more wonderful for somebody like me who has been playing these ARPG games for so long, always playing within the confines of each class archetype, and always had to stay in your lane, just could work only with the tools that were given to you. To have all this freedom to go way beyond the bounds of what is typically acceptable was just honestly an absolute dream, and what ultimately got me to play the game. Now, maybe you are not personally all that excited about a Burning Arrow Golemancers, and that's okay, but I just want you to understand that is what this game is capable of doing. It's capable of taking these class identity and just blowing it up to smithereens. You can do anything. You can take any ascendancy and go all around the map and make any kind of build you want, and there's a lot of different unique items that are designed in this game with that in mind, and sometimes not, and then sometimes people never stop finding cool and interesting interactions, and anyone who has even a shred of enthusiasm of creating or making a creative build for themselves is going to absolutely love this game. And you know what, even if that's not you, even if you don't have a creative bone in your body, you can still appreciate looking at somebody else's build and say, you know what, I want to play that for myself. That's freaking cool. I want to do that. And that's basically what happened to me. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to let the man, Mark Roberts, talk to you a little bit. We're going to actually just let him say exactly what he said in the Q&A section with Ziggy D, which I particularly enjoyed. And I think this probably went over some people's head because it was, a couple hours deep into the Q&A and everybody was probably kind of zoned out. This is, in my opinion, the most important thing he said, and essentially gave absolute affirmation about this idea that Path of Exile 2 was not only going to keep that mode, that creative potential of build, was actually going to expand upon it. Listen to the way he talks about the new ascendancies and what he hopes for in the game. Here's Mark Roberts.
What we've tried to do is for the class, we've tried to have one that's a bit more out there. Yeah. Something that isn't just, like if you think even about in PoE1, you've got the duelist, you can go like champion or slayer or holy words, I don't remember, but you know the drill. And the gladiator. And the problem is like, okay, they're all just about like hitting stuff with weapons, and they haven't. There's nothing really out there. Sure, they all sound cool. Like, don't get me wrong, and they can be cool, and they do have differences, but there's nothing that's like kind of crazy. So all of a sudden now, when you're like, sorceress, you're using all your elemental skills, and now you can just like go into this thing that can stop time. It's a little bit more crazy, and you got the mercenary, and you can turn into a gemling legionnaire and effectively fuse gems into your flesh to like, mutate yourself. It's like not just talking about crossbows and projectiles over and over and over and over again. It's like doing kind of whack stuff. So I really like that. That's awesome, and we're going to make sure every single class has one thing that is like definitely out there, and then one thing that's more predictable, more to the expectation of the trope. For example, the Deadeye to the Ranger, and but yeah, lots and lots of cool interactions, just cool playing with different mechanics, and we've tried to make them like, for example, none of them call out a weapon, right? None of them. So we're trying to make sure that they're broad enough to be that. You might be a ranger going a Deadeye, but playing a caster, right? Yeah. Playing spells, like keeping all of that open, that flexibility, that kind of crazy, for the Johnny players, as we call it out there, who want to just completely experiment and figure out, the most broken, weird stuff, and you get things with that when you're still like, okay, I'm a ranger. And I'm using a Quill Rain in one weapon set, spec'd into a bunch of prod speed, attack speed, and in my second weapon set I'm using a Spellcaster Staff with a bunch of projectile stuff, and I'm invested into more spell damage side, and you've got a whack tree, and all of a sudden now you're this like Deadeye, Archer, Spellcaster, Mage hybrid doing all kinds of wacky stuff, or like even, or let's say the same build and experimenting with a bunch of triggers, and so you're using your bow as a Quill Rain as a high attack speed delivery mechanism for, laying down a bunch of either CCs or slows or building up crowd controls, and then you're using the caster stuff, and like you get some pretty out there things going on, and the important thing is it's not like just like benefiting only arrows or only bow attacks or anything like that. It's broad and now, you know, opens up the world to what you can do. And same, like the Gemling Legionnaire on the Mercenary is entirely just about gem slots, skills, support, etc. You don't have to be anything. You can be literally whatever build you want. And yeah, so that's embracing that, and making sure that people still, even though we have all these classes, we're embracing that path of Exile. You can do anything fantasy that we want people to be able to do. And if you don't want to go with the trope, perfectly fine.
All right, there you have it, guys. That's what I wanted you to see. That's what I wanted you to hear. I wanted you to be aware of what's, in my opinion, maybe the single greatest aspect of Path of Exile, especially compared to the other ARPG games out there. And honestly, as somebody who still holds a lot of love for the old games that I used to play, this is something that just absolutely blew my mind. And for sure, one thing that keeps me coming back league after league after league, the prospect of getting to play something very interesting. Even if I play similar builds every single time, just getting to tweak a lot of different things. And I can't wait to see what Path of Exile 2 has to offer. And you know what? I want you to, especially if you are that person who is still on the fence about playing Path of Exile 2, especially if you're that person who's never played PoE outside of maybe a little bit of trialing it out, and you're thinking about playing this game, I want you to look at the comments section down below, and my hope is that there will be plenty of people, regular viewers of this channel, who are going to talk about or comment down below about their experiences, maybe the reasons why they started playing the game. I would appreciate if some of you guys would offer that. If you would say in the comments down below for those who don't have the privilege of playing it, especially if you're someone who really got into the game through the unique characteristics of different kind of wild build combinations. If there's something that really appealed to you, I've heard about this time and time again in our chat, in our Discord, all over the place. I know that many of you guys got into the game, especially because of seeing a particular build guide or build showcase that ultimately made you decide to start playing. What was that got you to start playing? But anyway, yeah, we'll just leave it at there. You can also let me know if you're somebody who's still on the fence and maybe you still need a little bit extra push. Whatever it takes. Not everybody needs to play this game, but it is definitely going to be one for the ages. I think this could be absolutely. I mean, people are talking about this game. We still don't know. Give it a little bit of time, but people are talking about this game. They got so much high hopes. I'm definitely one of those. My hopes are extremely high. My expectations very high. The live reveal that I saw exceeded what my expectations were at the time, so they're now even higher for the experience of actually playing the game. So yeah, if you'll be there, then you'll be there. I'll see you guys there. More videos will be coming out in the meantime, talking about a few different things leading up to the early access. So I hope you watch them. Let me know what you think. We'll see you guys in the next video.